A lot of times things happen not because there is a big conspiracy, but rather because multiple groups have the same objective. It's easy to fall into the trap of conspiracy thinking, because you see something happening and you realize that multiple groups of people all benefit from that thing. And sometimes those groups of people, once they see the end in sight, they start acting together. Yeah? But a conspiracy means that from the get-go, all these groups were working together. And you have to avoid that trap, because it is a trap. Because it leads you to think that reality is completely determined and mechanistic by a secret cabal or some nonsense like that. And it prevents you from seeing reality unfolding around you. And it prevents you from seeing what actually happened. And the issue of mass migration is a perfect example of this. See, in the Western democracies, we are being hit by a flood of migrants. And it is going to cause a disaster. It is already causing a disaster now, but frankly, in the future, it will be a catastrophe. And it is going to cause all kinds of social problems. The social problems that you see in Brazil, where you have an extremely diverse ethnic group living all together, and they all hate one another. And there are these class resentments between the different groups and the different levels of this ethnic smorgasbord, right? You're going to see that in all the Western democracies. It is going to cause social havoc. If you've ever been to Brazil, you know what I'm talking about. Go to Brazil or study Brazil, and what I'm telling you is the future of the Western democracies. But you have to understand why this mass migration happened in the Western democracies. And ultimately, it was just one word: money. Do you know when mass migration started in the Western democracies? Huh? I can pinpoint the date. It was October of 1961 in West Germany, or what was then called West Germany. What happened was that there were not enough truck drivers in West Germany. Yeah, because of the Second World War and what have you, and the dip in population and whatnot, there were just not enough truck drivers. Or more to the point, see, there were truck drivers, but they'd have to be paid a lot more money in order to cover all of the trucks that needed to be driven. And the West German capitalists didn't want to pay more for a truck driver. And so they started importing Turkish drivers. That's how it started, back in 1961. Well, in 1961 there was a law that passed, but the Turks were the ones who started it. Turkish truck drivers. That's how it started, back in 1961. And these workers were supposed to be in West Germany for just 2 years. But in short order, by 1964, they changed the law so that the Turkish workers who had been brought into West Germany didn't have to go back after 2 years. They could stay. And the reason being was that businesses lobbied so that they could stay, because they didn't want to be spending all this time training the workers, and then in 2 years the worker had to leave. It would take, say, 6 months to train the worker, and the firm would only have 18 months of productive labor for that worker, and then back to Turkey the worker would have to go. They didn't want that. They didn't want that, and so in 1964 the West German capitalists lobbied to change the law. And that's when it started. Something similar happened in Great Britain. They allowed the Commonwealth countries, the former colonies of Great Britain, to immigrate to the UK. And so they started bringing in all these workers so that they didn't have to pay more to the local workers that they already had. That was the problem. That was the point. See? There were all these jobs available, or more correctly, there were all these positions that needed to be filled, and the capitalists didn't want to pay more money to fill these positions. And so they found it simpler to import workers from colonies, from Turkey, whatnot. Import those workers and pay them the same amount of money as they were paying the locals, right? And because of inflation, and because of this constant immigration of workers from Turkey, from the Commonwealth countries, and then in the United States with the with the change of the law, the immigration law there, from just about everywhere in the world, right? All of a sudden you had this influx of workers to the Western democracies, depressing wages so that the capitalists could make more money. Now see, of course, in short order, these workers wanted to have their families with them, which is perfectly natural, perfectly legitimate. I mean, if you're working like a dog somewhere,